Fuck yeah!
Good. So good.
Before Lisa Orth became the mayor, she was a wild child.
Well, she's quite inspiring. My life would have been kind of boring without her.
She's the type of person that makes a room cooler just by walking through it.
All I knew is that she was like some special kind of cool, because I could just tell.
Lisa Orth. There's so much drama all the time. Don't say that.
She probably was the first person I ever knew to have a nose piercing.
And she's so blunt.
One of the many things that's really amazing about Lisa is her abundance of ideas and her abundance of great and brilliant ideas and her ability to sort of just follow through with those ideas on this level that's just like, what the fuck? Like, you just thought of that yesterday and now you're just like fucking doing it. Cool, awesome. It's really inspirational. My name is Lisa Orth, and I'm an artist in a lot of different mediums, including visual and sound.
I first learned about Lisa from my friend Stacy, who was introducing me to the queer scene in Seattle, and was serving as a bit of a lesbian professor to me. And she told me that there was a woman named Lisa Orth and that she was Seattle's lesbian mayor. And I said, what the fuck does that mean?
Well, the thing about that is that I don't really think that I'm the one who even thought of it. I think that somebody said it to me, and then I thought it was hilarious, and I just kept saying it. And maybe I like took it to the next level that it's at right now. But I'm pretty sure I didn't actually come up with it myself.
I think how I got to be the lesbian mayor was I put on all the dance nights for women and was super out and did all these things. I was just super active in the queer community and the rock and music and whatever. And if anybody wants to be the mayor, maybe just do some cool shit. I was kind of a weird, geeky, arty weirdo. Punk rocky, new wavy weirdo that was also really smart. And I should have gotten a lot of shit from people, but no one ever fucked with me.
She never got in trouble for anything that she did.
I used to call her Lisa Warhol because she always had a posse of people around her, mostly cute women.
Just what really stands out to me is there was so much availability if you wanted to be an artist or a musician that you could live in weird places for very cheap amounts of money and you didn't have to work all the time to pay your rent. Everybody I knew had ample time to make art and music, and there was a really close-knit community of people who, even if they weren't doing the same things, were generally incredibly supportive of each other. I just came in and, I had a graphic design degree, so I went in and I designed portions of the paper, put it together, put ads together, whatever they needed, wrote record reviews. If there was a record nobody else wanted that, I was like, actually, that's really cool. We should write about this. And then I got to do things like Bruce Pavitt came down from Olympia and moved from Olympia to Seattle, and he started a column called Sub Pop. And they needed somebody to do graphic design, and Bruce was like, oh, this would be a really good fit, because I was into the same kind of music, so I started designing this column. And designing just meant you got to put whatever graphics you wanted to put in there, and you tucked them around on the stat machine or in the photocopier, and you got to decide how things look.
I remember her pasting up the album cover to Bleach. She was probably 10 feet away from my office as she was doing that, and the reason that typeface is in Century old style condensed is we only had 12 typefaces on the Rocket typesetting machine.
The thing was, Sub Pop at the time signed so many bands. I think they had an idea that if they signed everybody, somebody was gonna make it big, and so they're just gonna cast their net really wide and take in all the fish. Maybe one of them would be the big cash cow that turned out to be Nirvana, but when I saw Nirvana's very first show in Seattle, because I would go out and see all the bands that got signed and all the Sub Pop showcases and stuff, I remember seeing them and thinking, ooh, not so good. Like, they weren't. The first show I saw wasn't so good, so I was just like, oh, whatever, it's another Sub Pop band, you know. And even if you design a logo for some band that's the biggest band in the whole entire world, all you did was decide how something should look, you know, like, yeah, so I did that. Very first band was just a weird industrial noise project in high school called INS. And my first real band was a band called Infamous Menagerie. These two other queer women who moved here from North Carolina, Lisa Pateska and Erin Schneider. After that, a band called the Shit Kittens, my friend John and Keith, and I don't know, drunk people who showed up to practice. Then a band called 66 Saints, which went through a couple different manifestations of what it was. And then a band called, jeez Louise, it's not a band. Then a band called Flight to Mars. And then a band called The Rub that turned into a band called Perini. Then a band called Model Zone. And a band called Polari, which was, for our first couple shows, called Telepathic Liberation Army. And I kept that name because I loved it so much and used it later. Model Zone, Polari, might be missing some, who knows. Then Telepathic Liberation Army, and now a project with my girlfriend, Lord. I think that's it. That was a band that me and my friend Cheryl, I think she worked down at the market or something, and she knew this girl, Valerie, who had just started playing drums. She worked at Tenzing Noma or something. They hung out, and I had been in a bunch of bands, and my friend Cheryl played bass, and I was playing guitar, and she's like, let's all three of us get together and play. And I was like, okay, cool, you know. And then her friend, who was it? Celine was down at the market too. And Celine like had all this poetry she would read, so we'd have band practice. And Celine would come over and read from her journal, read poetry, and it was rad. As we decided we were going to call ourselves Barbie's Dream Car. I have no idea where that name came from. And so it was basically 7-Year Bitch, but with me. When I was 19, I got in a car accident, and I ended up getting a good deal of money as a settlement for an injury. And I never wanted to buy a bunch of expensive stuff. Like I bought a guitar or whatever, and I kept the money to make, loaned a bunch of money to Sub Pop when they needed it to stay afloat. And then I started a record label. I just thought, there's so many talented people who I know whose music is amazing who aren't being signed by Sub Pop. And maybe they weren't being signed because, like a lot of the bands that I've worked with had women in them. Sub Pop didn't have a lot of girls in their bands. And maybe the sound was just a little bit different, not so grungy. But anyway, I knew all these people and I thought they were amazing. Valerie, who I was playing in Barbie's Dream Car at the time, she was dating Steve from the Gits. So we went out to see the Gits and Mia Zapata, and it was just blew me away. And I was like, I have to put out a record by them. Like, they're amazing. My friends in the band Hammerbox, saw them and they were amazing. Some people in the band Common Language, all female band, had a drum machine, very weird and ethereal, and very 4AD-ish, kind of like My Bloody Valentine's, Cocteau Twinsy, but electronic-y too. I just was like, no one is putting out these bands. I have this money. I have great taste. I'm going to put them out. And I just did it. I'm not really sure how long the record label lasted. It lasted until I got rid of all the records. The thing about Mia's death is that, more than Kurt's death, I mean, obviously they're two really different things in different time frames, but when Mia was killed, it really brought home the lack of personal safety that we had as people like living up here on Capitol Hill, and being a woman and being not safe. And out of her death, so many things came about, but one of the things was Home Alive, which was a really powerful movement that just tried to educate people about how to defend ourselves and how to stick together as a community. And I think that for Mia's death, there was so much bonding and people getting together and wanting to support each other and keep each other safe. And that was amazing. It was horrible and empowering what happened and empowering what came from it. And then Kurt's death was obviously just so sad, but for me, I felt that it was really sad to see so many people that I knew who thought had some sort of integrity try to fucking cash in on what had happened. Like, it just, talking about not wanting to brag about designing Nirvana's logo. I designed it. I did the record. My name's on the back of it. Like, okay, there it is. If you're interested, there's the information. I don't need to brag about it. There were so many people who were just had a little bit of knowing Kurt or being involved with this and that, and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna write a book about her. I'm gonna get on TV and do interviews. It's like, the attention shouldn't be on you. Like, something horrible happened. Let's not all try to fucking profit from it.
Something really cool about Lisa is that she wants to help you learn how to do anything you want to do. And she's like, I love women, I want to help women be able to do everything. And she's really cool too, because she's like, I want to learn how to do this thing. And then like a day later, she's like so great at it. It's amazing.
She can play almost any instrument. Actually, like really kind of jealous sometimes. I guess you would say I had envy. She can play bass, she can play guitar, she can play drums. She can play Moog, theremin. She could probably tap dance if you asked her if she could tap dance.
She gets stuff done. It seems like flawlessly and like effortlessly.
Lisa was very mellow, but always very, very alternative. And I'm emphasizing that word very a lot. She was kind of, if I wanted to sum her up in one word, I would say she was alternative before there was such a thing as alternative. And I realize that's not one word. Let's say proto-alternative, pre-alternative.
Inspiring and talented.
Badass motherfucker. But I can't really say that because that's like 4 words or 5 words. So I'm just going to say badass. She's a total badass. And that might be 2 words. I'm not very good with my... Okay.
Strong, smart, intelligent, a leader. But if I had to really break it down into one word, it would probably be inspirational.
Iconic. Superstar. Lesbian mayor.
I was working for this crappy movie company. I was making more money than I ever made working a cool job. And I hated it more than anything else in the world. But one thing is that they also had a record division, so I was able to like press my band's records through the company for really cheap and put out more records of my own music. It was hard to walk away from that, but I decided that if this was the real world where you got paid a decent amount of money, but it was the worst thing ever, I never wanted a job like that again. And I remember that the company hated the fact that I had tattoos. So my New Year's resolution, I like to do things for New Year's resolutions. I feel like it's a real good time to make change. I remember I resolved that I was getting my tops of my hands tattooed, and I was going to give notice at that job. And so getting the tops of my hands tattooed was a way of never having that possibility again to work for a company who would have a problem with me and who I was and being weird or arty or whatever. And so I did. I got the tops of my hands tattooed, and I never worked for anybody else since that. So that's a really good thing that I did that. And then I decided I was going to start my own company, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I mean, I'm a skilled graphic designer, but I didn't know how I was going to make a living. I just did it on pure faith, and I said, well, if I have to live out of my van with my dog, that's fine. You know, I'll keep my guitars and make music and somehow get by. I had a friend who was going to school at the time, and she was taking an HTML course, and she wanted some help putting together a web page, because that was her homework. And she said, you know, I know the HTML, but can you help me with the graphics? And I was like, oh, sure, no big deal. So we put together this web page, and it was for a fake company that she called Pink Robot. Later, like that week after we had done it, I helped her with the project. I was out at a club night. My friend was putting on some queer women's night, and I ran into Rachel Benning from Boys in Big Black. And we had known each other just from being around. And she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, drinking, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I just quit my job. I was like, you guys could really use some help with your graphics, and that's so good. And she was like, oh, really? Did you do that? And I was like, oh yeah, totally help you out. Just like totally bravado, like, I could fix your guys' stuff, and your website's not so good. And afterwards I was like, God, why was I such an asshole to Rachel? Like, putting down all her graphics and stuff. But the day after, she called me up, and she's like, so I'm really still interested in talking to you about helping us with our graphics. Do you have a company? Whatever. And I went over and met her, and she wanted to do all sorts of regular graphics, but also do website stuff. I called up my friend Kim, and I was like, hey Kim, you know how to do HTML, right? Because we did that project. And we ended up just forming this company to work together. As years moved on, computers became a part of it little by little. And by the time that I started to be really unsatisfied with being a graphic designer, it's because you sat there for 8 fucking hours a day, and all you did was move a finger and press a button. Like, you're still being creative, but the whole thing about creating something real with it was gone. And I started to be really unhappy with having to sit in front of a computer with no interaction, you know, for 8 hours a day. So it was wonderful having Pink Robot for so long, and we created lots of cool stuff for lots of cool people. You know, we worked for $3 Bill Cinema and Bayland and all sorts of crazy companies that have come and gone here in Seattle, and worked for Microsoft and all this stuff. And it was wonderful until I realized that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life staring at a screen. All the nights. I'd probably start off with a night called Make Out, the Baltic Room, Vibrator at the Eagle, Muscle at the Eagle, a night called Shock Up, Sit and Spin. War Room was Cherry moved to Rebar. Another night called Versus, that was maybe at the War Room and Rebar. Freak at the Wild Rose. Some other nights called, a night called Dance Queers Dance at the Wild Rose. A night called Amateur Youth Hip Hop Party at the Wild Rose. And Meet at Pony.
During that time of all those dance nights, it just felt like the most a part of the queer community, I guess, I've ever been.
So with that very first night at the Baltic Room Makeout, something that was awesome talking about like queer visibility is Lily, who I was doing it with, Shay's girlfriend. She was an amazing photographer. So something that we wanted to do was to not just put a fucking queer ladies night, Baltic Room, and put dumb text, but so we, for every night that we would have, it was monthly, we got a photo shoot together, and we tried to pick queer women from the scene we'd have these photo sessions with them where they would like be getting together and like, oh, a bunch of girls making out on the flyers, but it wasn't like, here's eye candy for straight dudes to look at. It was like, these girls look like dykes and they're like making out, or really strong imagery. And we were trying to connect it to people out there in Seattle, you know, to have it be like, this night is about you and this night is for you and here's you on the flyer, you know. And I think that's something that I kept doing when Cherry started.
Those posters that I would see when I was walking down the street, like on poles, wheat pasted on, you know, like part of a block, like seeing these images of women, like very gay, very beautiful women, was like a literal sign telling me like where to go to be a part of something amazing.
You're trying to do something that involves the community by presenting the community as part of it and making people feel like it is their night. And really asking them what they want and how they want to be portrayed and what their visibility is like, and putting that in the forefront of things. And I feel like that affected a lot of people too, you know.
But I do remember going to Vibrator and Lisa and Hannah Bliley DJing topless, and they were playing Toxic by Britney Spears, and I was really into that record at the time, and I hadn't been in a space that was like, I was always so scared to be in like very queer spaces, and I felt like they made it so safe and really cool, kind of intimidating.
Second Saturdays, it would be taken over by just like a whole, like, you know, 800 queer people are like taking over this giant club on the hill and doing their own thing. I don't know, I think it meant a lot to people because it told them that they were as important as everybody else here on Capitol Hill.
I think that those nights will always have this really important place in the scene moving forward. I think that there was Lisa built a kind of system in it to how to build those nights, and some of it's about cost, and some of it's how well we pay people, and some of it's what those spaces are like and what kind of spaces they're in. And if you think about the nights now that exist, I was at Shade last night, and that's at the Eagle, and I think Lisa's night, Vibrator, really allowed queer people and particularly women into that space in a way that hadn't happened before.
It was great. Like, I could probably have made a living and been a professional DJ, but at the same time, being here in Seattle for most of my life, something that really kind of crept up on me was the winter depression. And I noticed that as the seasons changed, I would get kind of blue. And I was never like a massively heavy drinker, but DJing a lot, you know, kind of trying to segue out of graphic design and into DJing, I found myself in nightclubs more and more. And when you're DJing, you get free drinks, just constantly, like someone's bringing you drinks. And I was getting depressed, and I didn't know if I should stay in Seattle anymore, but I was like, there's so much cool stuff still going on here. And I thought to myself, well, alcohol's a depressant. You're getting depressed. Maybe just do an experiment and see. Don't drink for a month and see if it makes you feel any better. And I did. Within 2 weeks, I felt amazing. But then I was also DJing till 2 or 3 in the morning, and it is not so fun being sober around drunk people constantly. It actually sucks. And something that I thought was incredibly fun now was mildly fun and very, very annoying. and I did not know if I wanted to be a sober DJ. It's really sad to say that, but I just didn't know if I could handle being around so many drunk idiots all the time. And I was like, maybe this DJ thing isn't what I want to do.
I don't know if it's one word. I've always admired Lisa's multiplicity. So she can translate from DJ to graphic design to tattoo artist to musician to painter, and she does well in each of the disciplines, and she changes and works hard at the new disciplines. So maybe diverse would be a good word for Lisa.
Regal. Lisa Orth is pretty fucking regal.
I think the word that comes to mind is bold. It's a pretty simple word. I'm not going to try to impress anybody with a 5-syllable crazy word. I think bold is pretty accurate for her.
Hilarious, blunt, super gay.
Lisa Orth is an enigma.
At the time, I just came into some tattoo equipment, and my friend Owen had told me years and years before, if you ever get tattoo equipment, I'd be happy to get you started tattooing. And I never really thought about it at the time. I was like, oh, I don't want to do that, because I didn't want to work at some biker tattoo shop with a bunch of idiot dudes who were just not open to gay people and women. And, you know, when he told me about it, I was like, ugh, why would I want to work in a tattoo shop? Then all those years later, he's like, yeah, I could help you get started. And I was like, maybe this would work, maybe this is something. Why didn't I do this before? Yes! Of course I want to do it.
Watching Lisa self-teach herself, which is what she did. I did not teach Lisa how to tattoo. I got to watch and then was curious and learned things from her.
Tattooing is really probably one of the most difficult things I've ever said about learning how to do in my life. And I spent, you know, like almost a couple years just learning, you know, like Owen would give me tips and tricks and show me how to set things up. And it wasn't a traditional apprenticeship because he doesn't have a traditional shop. He works like I work now, which is appointment only. He only does his own artwork. He is not a traditional old school tattoo artist. He is more of an artist who does his artwork is doing tattoos. So I feel like he probably inspired me more than anyone else for what I'm doing now. And our art's very, very different, but you know, he had a different approach that was all his own, and he would, you know, get me started, show me how the equipment worked. You know, his advice was tattoo your friends, and I would tattoo my friends, and it'd be horrible.
I was definitely one of the people that I was like, I will have free tattoos if you're gonna start tattooing.
Well, she did this cheeseburger, which is a cover-up. I thought that went real well, actually. She did. Where's Michelle? Oh, that's Michelle.
I could have been Matt, but no.
Some people think it's David Bowie. Most of them are on my legs.
And I would go back to him and be like, I'm struggling, and he'd be like, do this, do that. And I just kept at it and stopped tattooing my friends and went to tattooing grapefruits because I was like, I don't want to fuck them up anymore. My friends loved the free tattoos they got, but I wasn't happy with them. So I just, you know, I remember I took like probably 6 months straight where every day I would tattoo grapefruits until my line work started to look not horrible, you know, and I didn't go back to tattooing my friends for free until I felt like I could give them something that I wasn't going to be embarrassed about, you know. And Owen was so great, he'd be like, come over, sit in on my session, watch me tattoo. And I had a couple other tattooers at the time who would do the very same thing. They would invite me over to their studios and let me watch them work and ask questions. And, you know, I feel really lucky that people gave me the opportunities that they did to help me get started.
Lisa Orth has done my only non-shitty tattoos.
It wasn't really that scary because I knew I was going to be okay, you know, but it was just a matter of trying to create something that I felt would give people the kind of experience that I wanted them to have to get tattooed versus what maybe I'd experienced when I started getting tattooed. So
when I was getting tattooed and having conversations about art and the creative process and her creative process and the universe and space. And I feel like it really helped when my leg was in pain.
She's wicked smart. Probably one of the most intelligent people I know. She's been nothing but a huge, I would say idol of mine. And I've always been so impressed with how she can pick up anything and be amazing at it. Even fish breeding. Yes, we went through a phase of both being obsessed with fish. And Lisa turned her whole art studio into a fish breeding facility and made a website and sold these fish on eBay.
I know now she's like, the holy mayor shaman, on a path of peace, anti-technology, artist. She was an artist at life in every way possible that I could conceive, that I could see. And part of her art was being wild, original in her wildness, and getting away with it.
Life without the lesbian mayor, I don't figure that, lesbian mayor is not something that you're elected to. It's something that you're appointed, and you don't have a choice. That doesn't mean that we gotta have a lesbian mayor right now. Someone else has to be appointed. Maybe for the interim, we could have like a baby dyke undersecretary for like a transition, or I'm not sure. The straight guy here does not have the answers.
Oh, that's only Lisa's the lesbian mayor.
my advice for anybody would be just know whatever you do, just be true to yourself. I mean, you might come into a situation where you're like, oh, where do I live? How do I pay rent? Whatever. Just don't think that you have to do what everybody else does. Don't think your living situation has to be the same. Find a way to do it differently. If you want to live here, find some cool shit and make things happen for yourself, and don't expect to fit into a structure and be happy. It's way easier to create your own happiness outside of the structure. And I think finding this from my space that I live in, my space that I work in, different practice studios, different art studios, I've always found an alternative place to live that maybe isn't the norm. I've spent more time living in art warehouses illegally than I have living in apartments, and been way happier for it. So, get together with people, be just true to yourself and what you're trying to do. Don't compromise, and just have your original voice, and trust if you want to do something and you think, well, that's where no one else is doing that, whether it's where you live or how you work or the job you want or how you want to approach being queer in Seattle. Just don't compromise anything, just be who you are, and trust your own vision and voice. I see that Capitol Hill has really lost its soul, and Seattle has really lost its soul. It's how I'm perceiving the changes. You have this city or this neighborhood that you want to live in because it's vibrant and different, and it gives you this other perspective, and that is given to you by the artists, by the musicians, by the queers, by the junkies, by the all this mess of people. And when that neighborhood and or that city changes so much that none of the people that have gotten together to create this amazing, vibrant, special heart when none of them can afford to live here anymore. When those people go out on the streets, they're attacked verbally, physically. When none of the clubs that they're used to going to, when they go in, like, it's just a bunch of people who look down on them. Like, their space has been eliminated. They've been attacked. You know, like, most of the people I know who have done so much to create an amazing, vibrant scene in this town, they cannot afford to live here.
Lisa Orth 100% made Seattle better, and like it would definitely not be half as cool if she wasn't here. At least for people, like for artists and women. She just like did so much. It's awesome, and she wasn't a dick about it.
You know, Seattle will be a lesser place with her not in it. I think as we lose more and more of our kind of institutions, as redevelopment takes over everything, and as artists and writers can't afford to live in the city anymore, we're a lesser place. And Seattle will be a lesser place without Lisa in it.
They're kind of, one of our good artists is taken out of our community, so that's a bummer. It's good for Lisa that she's moving. I'm happy, but I would, yeah, her presence will be missed.
She's totally changed my life. And I don't even know where I would be today if I hadn't met her. She's the same amazing, compassionate, artistic genius, best friend. I can totally be myself around her, and she does not judge me. She's fucking amazing.
I think two things. I think first, it's important that for someone like Lisa, who's done so much here and is so talented, that when she feels like it's time for her to try something new, that she gets to do that. And with that said, I think that it's a huge loss for our city and our queer community, particularly as things always change, and as we had Lisa Orth, who is so many different things in our community, from DJ nights to tattoo artists to creating art and creating artistic spaces. So I think that'll be a huge loss, and particularly because she has so much history here to pull from, that as our community is younger, that we don't always see.
It's like dating somebody for a long time, and when you first get together with them, you're like, oh my god, this is so perfect. We get each other. This is great. We like, oh, we want the same thing. Like, fucking awesome. And then you wake up. Maybe you've been with them for 15 years or something, and you wake up one day and you look at the person next to you, and you're just like, what the fuck is this? We have nothing in common. Oh my god, they've changed so much. Like, it just hits you on the head. Like, fuck this. And you're just like, I gotta get out of here. You know, it's like realizing that the city I've been in a relationship with, it's changed drastically. It's not going back. Like, unless something happens and Amazon falls completely and all of the entitled tech workers who start off making $180,000 a year leave for somewhere else, I don't imagine the city's gonna go back to anything that I wanna be a part of.
If I could describe her in one word, it would be cool. She's casually a genius, a casual genius.
If I had to sum up Lisa in one word, it would totally be cool. She's fucking cool.
I would say cool. Like Lisa Orth is just cool.
That's it. I love her. She's amazing.
Hey, Dutch. Come here. Come here, take a seat. Come on. Come on. Ah. Whoop. There you go.
How long have you known Dutch?
Dutch and I have known each other going on 11 years now. This is my the man in my life.
What are your collaboration partners?
One of my very important collaboration partners. He is responsible for me making a lot of the decisions that I make. Weirdly enough, because I keep him working my. I bought her RV, so Dutch could go with me on a trip down the coast. He's a pretty integral person.
You named the RV?
Yes, it's called the Duchess.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that out.
Yeah.
It was only 5 minutes left.
How about that?
You're done?
Yay!